All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another podcast. I am Sean, the Toga Brothers. Um, I am one of the Toga Brothers. And as you guys already know, my other Toga brother sort of went his separate way, but we collectively are running this channel under my my not really control, but under my direction here. Um, I would like to talk about something here with you guys. And this is called the art of standby, which is also referred to as non rev. Okay, so we have a few things to talk about. First of all, what is non rev? Good question. So, when you go to Southwest, United, Delta, KLM, Lufthansa, all the carriers are basically airlines, right? They're airplanes, but each airplane has its own company that they run, right? For example, you have um when you buy products such as like Cocoa Pebbles, right? Well, the brand Great Value is the same product sold under a different name, right? Okay. It's the same for the airlines. It's the same plane type, just different airlines are using it to work. Okay. So each airline or each carrier, okay, has this method of what's called standby. Okay. So, as you guys know, I work for the airline. I've worked for the airline since 2016. Okay. But, um, typically, the way it works is when you work for the airline directly, okay? So you have the airline, and then you have the contractor, and then you have the vendor, okay? You have the airline, contractor, and then vendor. For those of you guys that are listening, just see if you can follow with me, okay? All right, here we go. So at the very top, I'm going to number these 1, 2, 3. In priority, all of the benefits go to the airline because that is who is servicing that aircraft, that route, that customer. Okay. Now, I hate using the word customer because it makes you think that you're monetary value. Okay. So we're going to do away with you calling you a customer because I hate that. I hate this as a business model. Some of you are going to argue against this, but I'm going to refrain from that because I think you guys are people and people are just traveling. They're just moving from point A to point B. Okay. Whether you purchase a good, whether you purchase a product, that's up to you. Whether you see family, that's up to you. But you're not a product yourself. Okay. So we're going to do away with calling you a customer. Okay. You are a passenger. Okay. So the airline, their responsibility is the passenger. Okay. And the good, which is your freight, right? Which is your luggage. Okay. And a lot of times we'll do freight like mail and boxes you're trying to send. Now that's different. Okay. The box is the customer because we're transporting it back and forth. Okay. It's a service we're providing. Okay. Yes, I know transporting you is also a service, but the freight is the service, like UPS. They're delivering it to you. That's a service. You could go get it yourself, but somebody is delivering it to you for you. That's a service. That's a customer, right? You're giving them your money for a service, right? It's an exchange. Okay. All right. Enough of this. So at the very top, we have the airline. Then the next one, we have the contractor. The contractor works for that airline for that location. Okay. Hold on, folks. Okay. So, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to break it down even more, kind of elementary style. So, the contractor will do the work for the airline, and it's airline specific. So, think of the phrase and word specific next to each of these. Okay. There. Specific. Okay. You have the airline, the specific airline. So a vendor, or I'm sorry, a contractor would work for a specific airline. Prime example, Swissport works for United Express at my location doing ramp work, and also they will do de-icing. Okay. Now, some vendors will work for the airline, such as um, like a Pepsi, okay, or Coke, right? Coke has a lot of goods that they serve to a lot of airlines. Some airlines only serve Coke products. Some airlines only serve Pepsi products. Okay, so you got the vendor. We really don't see too many vendors do this, so that's why I kind of hesitant to even add it in this. But I need you to know that. So the airline will do the location, the job type, and the specialty, same as the contractor. Okay, I work for the airline. Okay. I work for them directly. So my benefits are going to be better and higher in priority than the contractor because they don't directly work for the airline. Do you understand this? They're doing the same type of work, but they're not working for the airline. Okay. They're working for their own company, right? SPX, right? Think of SPX, Swissport Express. So if they work for Swissport, Swissport is getting the money, not United. Do you understand this? So if Swissport does the work for United, United is really not seeing anything from that individual. Who is Swissport. Swissport is getting the money from United because they're doing the work for them. You understand this? So, because they service the airline, they, by contract, okay, it's actually a legal contract. It's written in paper, right? And then documented digitally too. Okay. They get a benefit, and most of the time it's in flight compensation. Okay. So people who always ask you, do you fly free? Do you get free flights? Do you get benefits? The answer is yes. Okay. So again, it's airline specific all down here. Okay. So we can erase all this. You understand this part? Okay. Because I need this to understand for you to understand the art of non-revving. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to just pick any of you guys that are watching. All right. I'm going to pull one of you subscribers. Okay. Just out of fun. All right. Let's see. Well, there's 380 of you, so yeah. We'll just call you passenger. Uh, okay. So my favorite plane type in our fleet is the 763. So your passenger number 763. Okay, for this purpose. Okay, passenger 763 is going to travel from IAD to LAS. Now, if you remember your codes, and by the way, there is a podcast talking about all these. Okay. So see if you can figure this out before I tell you. Okay. And you should, well, I'll explain this later in a podcast, but this is actually kind of flip flopped if you think about it. It should be DIA, but unfortunately, when they were creating names, DIA is now DEN. And I'll explain that later. Okay. Okay. So 763 is traveling from IAD to LAS. Okay. You're traveling on a 737 700. Okay. 700 series. It's a 737 plane, but there's 3 different variations. Okay. And then you're on the smaller variation, which is the 700. Okay. Now, I don't know this off the top of my head because it's different for every airline. Now, each plane has number of seats that they can allocate to people physically sitting in them. Okay. So let's say, for example, this one sits 120. Okay. All right. So we look on the scheduled board, we look at it, and there are a planned, let's see, 90 customers in economy, and we'll get about 10 people in business, and there is 5 customers that are connecting, okay, from another flight, right? Because it didn't come from IAD, it came inbound, but they're taking that same aircraft to Las Vegas. Okay. So they're going to count for that passenger. Okay. And then there are going to be 3 standbys. Okay. So we have 100, 108. Okay. I'm trying to make this more realistic because I want you to understand what standby is and how challenging standby travel can be. Okay. So you got 90 and 10, that's 100. We got 115, and we have 8 standbys. Okay. So already, I think that's 122, if my math is correct. The shorthand version of passengers is PAX, so just bear with me, right? So there's that many people on this flight. Okay. Now, this is technically what you would call oversold because there can only be 120 people on there. Okay. There's already way too many because there's 15 people that are connecting on this flight. They should have done something about that. Okay. But this scenario happens more times than I can count. Okay. Believe it or not. This is not a new scenario. This happens all the time. Okay. So there are 4 types of passengers. You got first class, you have economy, you have EMP, okay, which is the employee, right? Okay. I put FLCW because FC is first class. This is going to confuse you. So, and then we have okay. So you got first class, economy, flight crew, and employee. Okay. And employee, I'm including everyone. I'm including flight attendants, pilots that need to take that flight so that the destination they're traveling to. So let's say there's a pilot on here, right, that is going to then take that plane from another one. They can also do that. They can include them into, the employee section, but I'm really putting them in flight crew, okay? Because often in times, there will be people in uniform that need to go to a destination so that, like, for example, if they get called up from DC and they need to board an aircraft in Las Vegas because they're understaffed so that they can take it from Las Vegas to, Seattle, okay? They'll be on that plane and basically become the pilot for that. So they need to board the plane on this location. Do you understand? Because they may be at home in DC and they don't have enough pilots in LAS. Okay. Las Vegas is the destination, by the way, if you guys haven't figured that out. Okay. So they don't have enough pilots in LAS to accommodate the flights that are scheduled to depart and then find out they need to include one more route to Seattle. So now they're already shorthanded. So what they're doing is they're taking somebody on reserve, like the National Guard reserves, right? They're ready, they're waiting in case they need to be called up. Pilots are also on reserve. So they'll be basically at home in DC. They'll board the plane, the same plane that you're sitting in, and they'll travel to Las Vegas in uniform so that they can go right to work in Las Vegas to Seattle. Okay. So those are the 4 groups. Okay. Now, if there are 10 here and there are 90 here, and the flight crew makes up 8. Okay. That's 108. Okay. So now 120 minus 108, that makes my math is bad. 12. Okay. So there's 12 passengers left. So let's say that there are 10 employees that are at the gate. Okay. By the calculations, this comes out to be 118 seats that are already filled. Okay. Now, I and let's say me and my dad want to fly. Okay. That's 2. And then my best friend at his house is going to try and fly on that same plane. So he books that flight. Now, somebody else that I don't know is off that day and they bring their son or their daughter. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 seats. Can all 5 of us fit on this flight? No. Why? Because there's already 118 filled. So someone's going to end up fighting for a seat physically. We hope it never gets to that. Absolutely 100%. We hope that never happens. Okay. But mentally, that's what we're thinking, right? Because I want to get there. You want to get there. They all want to get there, but there's not enough seats. So it's like a lottery. Okay. So what's up happening is all this is done by seniority, right? The time they work for the airline, let's say they started in 1986. Okay. The year I was born. Okay. Now I started in 2017. Who gets to board first? This guy, right? Or this girl? Because they've been working for X amount of years, 37 to be exact. 38. Because they put 38 years in the company, and I only put about 6 years in the company, they've earned it, right? So they're going to go. So this 2 people here, they're gonna board. Well, what does that make? 120. It's completely filled. But I work for the airline, right? So do they. I don't know them, but they work for the airline. So these people are what's going to be called standby. Because we're not basically comping the airline monetarily, we don't get first choice. Okay? We have to wait. We have to wait for like the last pickings. Imagine you going to a big event and they say, "All right, you guys, you pick first. Now you pick what you want, however much you want." And then they go through 10 tables of people. And then they turn to us and they say, "Okay, they've all gone. Whatever's left, have at it." That's essentially what standby is. When everything is all done, whatever's left and available, we get to take at a cost. Okay. So go ahead and pause the video or pause this however you want, because this is going to come in handy later. Okay. Okay. Because now I'm going to erase it. I didn't say it, didn't warn you. Okay. Passenger 763 is going from ID to LAS. Okay. They're on the website. Okay. Delta, right? Just pick Delta. Okay. They're going to fly Delta Airlines, DAL. Okay. Their ticket's going to cost them roughly $650. Okay. Round trip. Okay. This passenger is what we call a revenue customer, right? But I hate that word, so I'm going to avoid it. We're going to call them revenue. Revenue, I know I'm going to catch this, but revenue basically means you're compensating a business or a person for a service they provide, right? They're gaining money out of it. It's revenue, right? So this person, this passenger, is a revenue passenger. They get priority for boarding. Okay. And they will have a boarding card. They will actually have a real ticket, and they'll have a seat number 23 Delta 23D, and they'll say Charlie 3. Okay. That's what it'll look like. That's your revenue customer, revenue passenger. Okay. Now, your next passenger is positive space. And positive space basically means that they're not standby, but they're not entirely compensating the company, if that makes sense, right? So it's kind of a bartering system saying, okay, listen, I can't meet you at the whole 100, but if I give you this, can you meet me halfway? As in, can you take me there if I give you this, right? So and it usually is in the form of a huge thank you. Okay. For example, it gets very cold, it gets very hot, it gets very windy, it gets rainy, the stormy season. Okay. Your bags would not go on that aircraft if we didn't do that. So because I'm standing in the rain, standing in the heat, standing in the cold, working in these conditions, working in chaos, right? There's what we call positive space, okay? So there's positive space, okay? Then there's what we call non-rev, non-revenue. This means I am taking a gamble. I'm taking a gamble at boarding this flight on this airline as this customer, okay? Because I work for the airline. They're saying, we value your hard work. We value your integrity. We value your performance. So we're going to reward you. We're going to reward you with a ticket valued at $650 to get you from IAD to Las Vegas. But here's the catch. You won't have a seat number on your ticket. It will tell you your gate. It will tell you your airline, and it will tell you your departure time of 12:30 p.m. Okay? But it's not going to include a seat number. So what happens, do you know when you go book a plane or book a flight and you go get into the gate and they go groups 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then group 6. And by the time you're looking at group 5, there's like, I don't know, 2 people on group 6, right? But there's people still standing around. Well, I'm here to tell you they are non-rev people. I am a non-rev person because I work for the airline, right? So, and by the way, instead of the airline paying me a huge living wage to be able to do all this for you and not fly, they're saying, listen, we kind of can't come up with a living wage for you, okay? In its entirety. But check this out. This is really freaking cool, right? This being the airline having a conversation with you, right? We kind of don't have a living wage for you. And unfortunately, we don't want you to go. Wait, don't go. There's more. What if I told you any time of the year you want, anywhere you want to go, we'll give you $650 every time. But, now this is a huge but, major but. We need to prioritize the business first. Okay? Fair enough. If I was to run a business, I'd want my people who are paying me to live before other people first. Right? Like businesses. They want to get their paid customers out the door. And if they have any scraps left over, people that you're just having trouble will usually barter with them and kind of get their way in, baby. Right? Kind of. You guys know where I'm going with this? Okay. It's the same with non-rev. So all these customers, all these people are going to board first. Then we go down to positive space. So these are your flight attendants. Okay. These are your pilots. These are your folks that have retired in the company and served like 20, 30 years. Okay. They get basically secondary privilege. So, first privilege, revenue. Second privilege, positive space. Third privilege, And it's all done by seniority. Remember this, folks. Seniority runs the airline every step of the way. Okay? Non-revenue. That's me. I have to wait for all these people, and then I get to go. I've worked for United for 4 years. Okay? Now, if somebody comes in behind me and has only worked for a year and a half, well, I get priority over them. So if there's only 2 seats left and they have 2 and they only have a year and a half, well, me and my best friend are going to take those 2 seats because they are with me under my name. Okay. So that's how non-revenue works. Okay. Now, this was kind of a revenue 101, non-rev 101. Do you understand how revenue and non-revenue works? Do you understand that it's not just a complete freebie? Okay. It's a luck of the draw. Okay. Imagine this patch being a name. I'm going to throw it in a hat. Okay. Now, remember my drawing? There were about 5 seats left, or 3 or 4 seats left. Okay. After all of my revenue people have boarded, after all of my positive space have boarded, the rest of us, and there could be a list of 12 to 50 people. Ask me how I know. They're gonna all put our names in a hat. And then they're just gonna jingle it like bingo. You guys ever seen like a rolling bingo wheel where they take all the numbers and the guy or the girl is just up on the counter just rolling this wheel, and you see all the numbers just tumble and tumble and tumble, but they've been doing this for the last 30 minutes. Well, guess what? They're waiting to see the final seating results. When they get down to this step, the non-rev step, that's when they can start pulling names from a hat. How are they going to do that? By seniority. Okay. Let's say I have first seniority. Well, what they're going to do is they're going to blindly pull the name out of my hat. Oh, Sean? A customer here, name is Sean. Haha, that would be me. Welcome aboard, sir. So now, when my ticket doesn't say a seat, I'm going to be notified that indeed I have a seat. So now it will say Charlie 3, 23 Delta. That's my ticket. Okay. And you'll see a few people walk up to the podium and say, are there any opens, early on? Because 9 times out of 10, you don't want to wait there and find out you don't get a seat. Sometimes they can just be like, listen, we are way overbooked. Don't even try. And then other times, there are 30 open seats because the plane is wide open, meaning there's only like, I don't know, 70 passengers that need to board. And then the rest of you guys can take the rest of the seats. So I was like, yeah, even though we have to wait this time, you're already cleared. That has happened before. I was waiting and waiting and panicking. And as soon as I got to the airport, they already told me, you have a seat assignment. Please head to your gate. So, all right. Now that you know how non-rev and revenue works, okay, let me also tell you, so that you guys understand this process also applies to freight. Like, for example, if I don't fly, my bags don't fly. If I don't fly and I want to ship myself and goods and freight, that freight's not going nowhere because I have to fly with it. Okay. And let's say I'm not flying, but I'm flying my good. That good still constitutes you. Make sense? So yeah. Um, I am going to end the podcast here, folks, because I don't want to get too involved in all the stories. I will do another section on stories and tales, and I think I pretty much told you a non-rev story in the stories and tales section, so go check that out. All right. Thank y'all so much for watching and listening. This has been Sean on the Togo Brothers podcast. Until next time, I'm Sean. I'm out.